my dad texted. "We've all agreed. Stay out of the family now," I replied. "Understood." Then I pulled my investment from the new office building project. 48 hours later, my mom was in tears. My brother was hiring lawyers, and the developer texted, "Your withdrawal just killed our funding." I smiled and wrote, "I was standing in line at a coffee shop when the text came through. We've all agreed. Stay out of the family now." Just like that. No punctuation at the end, like it was too urgent or too casual to finish properly. It was from my dad, same man I helped out of a $400,000 hole 3 years ago when one of his trusted partners ran off with the company's payroll. Same man who hugged me that day like I'd saved his life. Now, apparently, I was no longer family. I stared at the screen. A couple people behind me in line were getting impatient, but I didn't move. My thumb hovered over the screen for a second, and then typed. "Understood." Then I put the phone away, ordered my coffee, and left without even waiting for it. Something in my gut shifted. Not like a punch, more like a switch being flipped. Quiet, clean, permanent. On the drive home, I didn't blast music. I just listened to the sound of my own breath, ran the last few weeks over in my mind. Beth, my younger sister, had been whispering her way through the family business ever since she came back from San Diego last fall. Suddenly, she had ideas. Suddenly, she wanted a seat at the table, but she didn't want to earn it. She wanted to inherit it. And apparently, she had succeeded. What they didn't know was that I had anticipated something like this. I'd been watching her work the angles. She wasn't clever, just bold. Reckless bold. I saw the signs months ago, when she started questioning my role in meetings, saying things like, "Why does Lucas always get final say?" And, "We should modernize how we vote on decisions." It sounded democratic, fair, but it was a setup. They didn't know I still controlled the biggest private stake in the new office complex, not just in capital but in design. I had signed off on the core engineering plan. Without me, the permits were nothing but paper. So I called my advisor, Mark, the second I pulled into my driveway. "Pull everything," I said, "all of it from the West Side development. Move it to the Midtown renovation project we discussed last week. Make it fast." Within hours, the wires were in motion. 2 days later, the building site stalled. Workers were sent home. The bank called off the loan. Permits expired. And just like that, the crown jewel of my father's so-called legacy hit a brick wall. My mom showed up at my condo that night. I didn't answer the door. I watched her on the security feed. She stood there for 10 minutes, then left. She texted me an hour later. "I don't know what you're doing, but you're hurting everyone." I didn't reply. The next morning, Andrew, my older brother, sent a series of texts that looked like a toddler had smashed a keyboard. Then finally one that said, "Beth showed us your message. We know what you were planning. You were going to cut us out once the building went up." That stopped me cold. I never sent a message like that. And that's when I knew. She faked it. Beth actually faked a screenshot, a conversation that never happened. She lied. And they believed her. They didn't even ask me. They didn't even check. That afternoon, the lead developer, Dan Myers, a guy I'd vacationed with once, messaged me in a panic. "Your withdrawal just killed our funding. Without you, the anchor tenant is pulling out." I waited an hour before I wrote back. My father said I should stay out of the family, so I did. No emojis, no punctuation, just facts. I could almost hear the sound of glass shattering in their world, and I hadn't even started yet. The silence was the loudest part. After I sent that message, everything went quiet. Not the kind of quiet you expect when people are mad. This was deeper. The kind that feels like a room has been cleared, and nobody bothered to shut the door behind them for a day or two. Nothing. No calls, no emails, not even the group chat updates about family dinners or board meetings. It was like I'd been scrubbed from existence. They didn't block me. They just deleted me. Fine. That gave me time. I met with a lawyer I trusted, someone far from the family's usual circle. I laid it all out for her, the text, the fake message, the ownership structure of the building project. She reviewed it, nodded slowly, then told me what I already knew. They had no legal case, but they were emotionally screwed. Pulling my investment had triggered a chain reaction. Dan, the developer, was relying on my capital to finalize the architectural plans and secure the loan. Without it, the permits lapsed. The tenants that had signed early letters of intent were gone, and since the rest of the family had leveraged other assets to guarantee their part of the investment, they were now exposed. Very exposed. That weekend, I heard from a mutual friend that my father had flown to Miami to meet with a private equity firm. Rumor was he was trying to replace my funding with a last-minute deal, the kind that came with ugly terms and long strings. I didn't interfere. Instead, I decided to hit them where it hurt most. My father's pride was wrapped around his real estate firm's reputation, not just the buildings, but the story that our family had. The vision that we could spot talent, build partnerships, bring cities to life. So I called a journalist I knew from my college days, a guy who owed me a favor. I gave him a simple pitch. What happens when family business turns on itself in the middle of a $50 million development? He liked it a lot. The story ran a few days later. Clean, no names, just facts, but anyone in our network would know exactly who it was about. It spread fast. My dad tried to spin it, but the damage was already done. His next meeting with investors got canceled. Andrew's partner started pulling out of smaller side ventures. And Beth, she went dark on social media, which was the biggest red flag of all. That girl lived for Instagram. Then something happened I didn't expect. My mom called again, but this time she left a voicemail. "Lucas, I don't know what you think happened, but this isn't a way to fix it. We're your family. Your father was just trying to protect what we built. Can't we sit down?" That word, protect, stuck with me. Protect from what? I ran a reverse image search on that screenshot they claimed Beth had shown them. It wasn't hard. I found the original source within 5 minutes. A Reddit post from 4 years ago. Different names, different context, but the layout matched, the text edited. She'd copied and pasted a fake conversation, changed the names, and passed it off as proof. I still didn't say anything. Instead, I made another quiet move. I met with the anchor tenant of the now defunct office project, told them I had another development coming online within a year, one with better amenities and a stronger financial backbone. I walked them through the plans, offered a discount on the first 5 years. They signed a letter of intent on the spot. Then I had that letter sent directly to Dan Myers. No note, just the letter. He'd know exactly what it meant. The project they were trying to build with me. I just rebuilt it without them. Still no call from Dad. Still no apology. They wanted me out of the family, so I stayed out, and they were beginning to understand just how much that was going to cost them. It had been 3 weeks since my dad sent that message, and every day since had been another quiet victory. The developer pulled out. The bank followed. Contractors stopped returning calls. The office complex they were so proud of was now an empty patch of fenced-in dirt, with a project sign already sun-faded and flapping in the wind. No one wanted to say it, but the whole thing was dead, and the only thing keeping it alive had been me. Andrew tried to salvage it. He started reaching out to private investors, calling in old favors, even hinted at repackaging the deal through one of his friend's shell companies. But people talk. Word was out that the family business was fractured and unstable, and nobody wanted their money near a sinking ship. Beth went completely off the radar. No more Instagram posts, no brunch selfies, no fake hustle quotes. She ghosted the office and stopped replying to internal firm emails. The firm accountant, Denise, called me after hours one night. She said quietly that Beth had drained one of the discretionary accounts last month, the same one used for brand development. Apparently, it covered her Mexico trip and $2,000 worth of networking dinners. Denise only found out after someone else tried to book a flight with the company card. and it got declined. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Instead, I made another move. There was a property next to my midtown development, a narrow lot that used to be a laundromat. It had sat empty for 2 years because of a zoning issue. I bought it anyway, paid above market to push it through. A week later, I acquired a second permit. With both parcels, I could now expand construction to triple the original design. Basically, I was rebuilding the same office tower they tried to push me out of, just better, faster, and without them. They noticed. That Friday night, I showed up to a local charity gala. I wasn't planning to, but a donor dropped out and I got an invitation last minute. I knew my parents would be there. And I was right. My father saw me first. He was standing with 2 city officials, drink in hand, pretending to laugh at something. When he saw me, he stopped, just stared. No hello, no gesture, nothing. My mom came over about 20 minutes later. Her makeup was perfect, but her expression cracked just slightly. She asked if we could talk, said this wasn't how things were supposed to go. I told her I wasn't the one who decided that. She said they thought they were protecting the business. That word again, protecting. They never protected me. They never even asked if what Beth showed them was real. No one verified anything. They just believed her. A couple lines of fake text on a screenshot, and I became the villain overnight. I walked away without saying anything else. The next morning, Dan, the developer, messaged me directly. "You're rebuilding it, aren't you?" "Midtown. We saw the permits." I didn't answer right away. He sent another. "Your mother's devastated. Andrew's looking for lawyers. Beth's disappeared. You proved your point. What do you want?" I read it twice. What did I want? I wanted one of them. Just one. To come to me and say, "Did you actually say that? Did you really plan to take the business?" That never happened. Instead, they cut me out, built a false narrative, and expected me to quietly disappear. I decided it was time to collect. Later that afternoon, I drove over to Beth's apartment. The Audi Q5 was sitting in the driveway. I paid for it, gave it to her 6 months ago after her old car died, because she said she didn't want to drive a cheap brand anymore. I still had the spare key, and the title was in my name. I didn't knock, I just unlocked it, started the engine, and backed out of the driveway like it was mine. Because it was. She came running out in slippers, yelling something I didn't care to hear. I didn't stop. I didn't even look at her. An hour later, she finally texted, "Seriously? You're taking the car back?" I replied with one sentence. "You faked a message to get me cut out of my own family, so yeah, I'm taking the car back." No response, not even dots. By Sunday, I got a call from Travis, the junior partner who was always more observant than he let on. "She moved back home," he said. "Back to my parents' house. The same house that had no room for me a few weeks ago." I sat on that news for a while. Thought about the silence. The way they'd let me slip away without asking any questions. Now Beth was back under their roof, and suddenly the truth wasn't so easy to ignore anymore. Something was about to break. And it wasn't going to be me. It was a Thursday afternoon when it happened. I wasn't there to see it in person, but I heard about it before sunset. My mother called 3 times in a row, which she hadn't done in weeks. I didn't answer. Then she sent a single text. "Please, it's not what we thought. Can you come by?" I didn't move. I sat at my desk in the Midtown office, the one they said I wasn't a part of anymore, and stared at the screen. 10 minutes later, Andrew called. That surprised me. We hadn't spoken directly since the fallout. His message just said, "She slipped up. Dad heard it himself." That got my attention. An hour later, I was in the driveway of the house I grew up in. The same house where I'd eaten Sunday dinners with people who no longer trusted me. On the same house my sister had run back to after lighting the whole thing on fire. My dad opened the door. No smugness this time. No speech. Just a nod. He stepped aside and let me in. The living room was quiet. My mom sat stiffly on the couch, hands clenched. Beth was nowhere in sight. Then, my father said it. She admitted she faked the screenshot. He didn't look at me when he said it, just stared straight ahead like the words cost him something. Apparently, Beth had been arguing with him earlier that day, something about control, the car, her contributions to the business. She got heated, slipped up, said something like, "He wouldn't have pulled out if you hadn't believed the message I made up." He froze, asked what she meant, and instead of backpedaling, she panicked and went on the offensive. Said she had to do it because I was taking over everything, and that it wasn't fair that I got the final word on the biggest deal. She admitted everything. My mom cried. My dad didn't. He just asked me one question. "Why didn't you say something?" I shrugged. "Would you have believed me?" He didn't answer. We sat there in silence. For once, I didn't feel like the outsider. I felt like the only adult in the room. They apologized. Not in the dramatic, falling to their knees kind of way, just quiet, honest. My mom said they didn't want to believe it, but it seemed so real. They saw the fake messages, heard Beth's trembling voice, and they convinced themselves it was true and that I was dangerous. I told them I'd already moved on. Midtown was happening. The tenants were lining up. The money was clean. I didn't need their approval anymore. Then, something strange happened. My dad said he wanted me back in the business, said he'd made a mistake, that Beth was out, that he wanted me to rejoin the leadership board and bring the Midtown project under the family umbrella again. I said I'd think about it, and I did, but not for long. That weekend, I agreed under one condition, that I had full control over every financial decision for the next 2 years. No vetoes, no committees, just me. They agreed. And just like that, the business began to heal. My name was back on the documents, my face on the branding materials, the bank that had ghosted them now calling me for meetings. Beth, on the other hand, was unraveling. She had lost her apartment, lost her car, lost the brand deals she was quietly building on the side. And now she was living in her old room while my parents, finally seeing things clearly, weren't shielding her anymore. That's when I heard the last bit. She demanded the villa. A few years ago, my dad had promised her a beachfront property in the Carolinas once the new office project was done. She tried to collect early, said she deserved it after all the stress she'd been through. My dad gave it to her, more out of guilt than anything, but now that changed. He revoked the transfer, told her she had to earn it. And just like that, her world flipped. No car, no house, no power, and I was back in charge. I thought that would be enough. But the best part, it still wasn't over. One morning, a week after I officially returned to the business, I drove to my parents' house to pick up some old files stored in the basement. My dad had texted, saying they were where I'd left them 5 years ago, back when we were still building things together. I hadn't planned to stay long, but as I walked in through the back door, I heard Beth yelling from the upstairs hallway, "I'm not folding laundry. I'm not the maid." My mom's voice, calmer, followed. "Then maybe it's time you started acting like a daughter again." I didn't say anything, just kept walking. The shift had already happened. Beth was back under their roof, but she wasn't living in comfort. She was living in consequence. Every room echoed with it. The villa, gone. My dad reversed the transfer and listed it within 48 hours of finding out about the faked message. He didn't even tell her. She found out when the real estate agent called her by mistake to confirm the viewing schedule. The car, still in my garage. The status, gone. Her friends stopped showing up. She hadn't posted on social media in 2 weeks. For her, that was like going off the grid entirely. Even her so-called brand partners had stopped replying. One unfollowed her publicly. That one stung. At dinner that night, which I stayed for out of curiosity, my dad asked her to help clean up the dishes. She just stared at him like he'd asked her to scrub the driveway with a toothbrush. Then my mom handed her a dish towel and said, "You don't get to check out anymore." She washed dishes in silence. I almost laughed. I didn't. The next day, she cornered me in the hallway before I left. "I'm not your enemy," she said. "You acted like one," I replied. I made a mistake. No, you made a move. She started tearing up but held it together. I want to come back to the business. I can help. I need a second chance. I looked at her. This wasn't a performance. She was exhausted, humiliated, but not broken. Not yet. So I gave her an offer. There's an opening in the internship program, I said. Entry-level admin support. $17 an hour. Her jaw actually dropped. You want me to be an intern? No. I want you to learn how to be useful. She walked away without responding. 2 days later, she submitted the application. Not through me, through HR. That Sunday, I got a text from my mom. Thank you. She needs this. I didn't answer. Instead, I made a quiet adjustment to her internship. She'd be reporting directly to one of the managers who couldn't stand her, a woman she once called a glorified secretary during a strategy meeting. She'd be learning humility the same way she lost it, slowly, painfully, in public. That night, I got a knock on my door. It was Beth. She looked tired, but honest. They want me to apologize, she said. I nodded. You should. I'm sorry, she said. I was selfish. I thought if I could push you out, I could finally be something. You were already something, I said. But you chose to be this instead. She nodded. What now? I leaned against the doorway and thought about it. Then I said, now you get to learn what it means to start over. And if you work hard, maybe one day I'll let you lead a meeting. She actually smiled, weakly. That's fair. She turned to leave, but I called after her. Oh, and one more thing. The car. It's still mine. You'll be taking the bus. For the first time. She didn't argue. And just like that, my revenge was over. But her lesson? That was just beginning. 3 weeks into her internship, Beth was a ghost of the girl she used to be. No high heels, no manicured nails, no designer bags, just a plain blouse, flats, and a company ID badge that clipped awkwardly to the side of her purse. No one in the office treated her like family because she made it clear she didn't want to be part of a family. She wanted to be in charge. Now she was learning what the bottom felt like. I didn't speak to her much at work. I didn't need to. Her supervisor, Tasha, the same woman she once mocked in front of a full boardroom, was in charge of her progress reports. Tasha didn't go easy on her, and to Beth's credit, she didn't complain. Not once, not even after Tasha made her redo an entire set of client files because she used the wrong format. She was trying. I'll give her that. But trying didn't erase what she'd done, and there was still one last thing she hadn't done. Not really. She hadn't owned it. That came a little later. It was the monthly strategy meeting, I called it. Everyone from the executive team was there, including the new partners from the Midtown expansion. We'd had a huge win with a national tenant signing a 10-year lease, the kind of deal we used to chase for months, now falling in our lap because of the noise we made. Halfway through the meeting, someone knocked and opened the door slightly. It was Beth. She had a clipboard in hand and a nervous expression I hadn't seen on her face since we were kids, when she'd broken Mom's favorite vase. Can I say something? She asked. I raised an eyebrow but nodded. She stepped inside, put the clipboard down, and looked at the room, people she once ordered around, people she used to dismiss like they weren't worth her time. I lied, she said. About Lucas, about the message. I made it up because I didn't think I mattered in the company unless I took something away from him. I was wrong. I hurt people. I damaged what we were building. And I wanted you all to know. No one made me say this. It's mine. No one said a word. Not even me. She walked out quietly, shut the door, and that was the moment it ended. Later that week, I walked into her cubicle. She was typing notes into a spreadsheet. You're doing better, I said. She looked up, surprised. I'm trying. You're succeeding, I said, which is harder than faking it. She nodded. Then I reached into my pocket and tossed her something. The car key. I'll call it a loan. 10% of your salary goes toward it until it's paid off. Deal? She smiled. It wasn't smug. It wasn't fake. Just grateful. Deal. We both knew things wouldn't be the same again, but that wasn't the point. The point was that she had finally hit bottom, and instead of blaming the world, she climbed out on her own. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means letting someone prove they can be different. And Beth.